Welcome back to the show, folks. This is the Upper Tier Podcast, and we are back with another episode, another tough one, another tribute show. We did Bray Wyatt's one last night, which for me was really, really tough. To see a guy pass away so young, leave behind four kids, a partner and an ex-wife. Very, very sad. But tonight's a kind of a different one. It's a tribute show. Excuse me. It's a tribute show, but it's going to be a look back at the career of an absolute pioneer of pro wrestling. The one, the late, the great Terry Funk, who sadly passed away last week as well. And it was a tough week. It was a tough week for pro wrestling, especially a lot of wrestling fans were quite excited going into All In. Absolutely unbelievable show, unbelievable crowd in the UK there in Wembley. 80 odd thousand strong. And people were excited for that show, but it kind of put a little bit of a dampener on it with obviously Bray passing away and obviously Terry Funk as well, who was, I would say Terry Funk was instrumental in most people in that ring in terms of his career and stuff like that. He was involved, and we're going to run down through his career. And I have to say, before we go any further, of course, drop a like on the video, folks. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, keep the support going. It's flying at the moment. Really, really love it at the minute. But I have to say, this was a not a tough one to do, but it was really nice to take a look back at Terry Funk's career, because Terry Funk for a long, long time is regarded as a hardcore legend and a hardcore innovator. But when you look back at his career and his achievements, as we will, he was so much more than that. He was a fabulous wrestler. He was brilliant in terms of his psychology of the art and everything else. And it comes true as we go down through it and stuff like that. And actually, when you go down through his career and you look at his career, the hardcore side of it really, which is what he's synonymous for when you talk to pro wrestling fans and you mention Terry Funk, they automatically think the Japanese death matches and the hardcore matches and all that kind of stuff. That's the go-to thing, really, But he had a stellar career in so many other territories, straight up wrestling, with the likes of Ric Flair and stuff like that. We'll touch on some of it. We can't touch it at all because this guy's career spans, God knows, it might even span 70 years. Unfortunately, he passed away. He was in a care home with dementia, and sadly passed away at 79 years of age. And for most of us, we would turn around and say 79 is even so young these days and stuff like that. But when you look back and you think about what this man put himself through and what he put his body through and what he sacrificed for both his art, his career, and for us as fans, 79 is an unbelievable age that Terry Funk lived to, even though it's young in comparison to what we would normally think. But I think with what he did in his career and stuff like that, he probably shaved at least 10 years off his life, to be honest, that's my thinking on it. But this is a celebration of his career because he had a full career in terms of wrestling, seen it all, did it all, worked everywhere, was still wrestling on the independent circuit up till 2017, 18 type of thing and stuff like that. So fairly recent. In the last 5-6 years, he was still kind of wrestling and still reasonably active, but obviously took ill with this dementia and stuff like that and stayed at home and for a long time didn't want to do conventions or meet and greets or any of that kind of stuff, because I think Terry Funk very much came across as a very proud man and stuff like that. And I think if Terry Funk couldn't give you Terry Funk, I think he didn't want to be around it then. I didn't think he wanted to see it. And he had a special relationship with Mick Foley and stuff like that. You can see it with the pictures and how close Mick was to him and the history, of course, they had together and stuff like that. The Hall of Fame inductions and all, we touch on it, all that kind of stuff as well. But I have to say, very different. It's a very different dynamic between yesterday and today, because today it was really nice to look back on the career of Terry Funk and see everything that he achieved and did. Whereas yesterday it was more kind of looking back on Bray Wyatt's career And kind of what upset me the most yesterday was the fact that I'm a father with kids as well, and the thoughts of leaving them behind on my wife Hillary was probably tougher than the wrestling side of things, and that's kind of what got to me. But today is more a celebration of this man's life and what he gave to wrestling and the fans and stuff like that. So I'd like to think of it that way. So it's a slightly different dynamic, if you like. Let's take some of your comments first of all. Sean is in. I fell in love with him after One Night Stand 2006. Such a loss. What a horrible past few days. Yeah, absolutely. Henry's in. What's the crack? All good, Henry. Good to hear from you and stuff like that. Don't forget tomorrow night, folks. Thursday tier talk. Henry is going to be jumping on. Dazzler is away in Boston still, living it up in America on his vacation, his holidays with the kids and the wife. So Henry's going to be jumping on, and we're going to be previewing all the Premier League action for the weekend. We're going to be talking about all the latest headline news, and I'll put together some bets for Beat the Bookie as well. Thursday tier talk. Check it out tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Friday, I will have an Aston Villa preview out for you. And also, we're going to be counting down the last hour of deadline day. So all the latest football deals. Looks like there's going to be a whole clatter of stuff by the looks of things, between loans, late deals, player swaps. It could all happen in the next 72 hours, 48 hours to 72 hours. So keep an eye out for that as well. But that's going to be a big one. And of course, check out Henry's channel and any of the other channels in there that I mentioned. Daz is in. What's the crack, Niall? All good. Back in the swing of things, Daz. Flat out at the moment with content. Big up Henry. Big up Daz. And my man Morris is in. Cheapy Productions Podcast. If you're not getting enough of your flavor of pro wrestling from me, go to Morris's channel. It is loaded to the gazills with some fantastic wrestling content. You will not be disappointed. Morris, 79 is a good age, considering what he done to that body. Absolutely, Morris. Henry, Wimbledon League, Chelsea. Yeah, good stuff. And the draw is later, isn't it? I think the draw for the Carabao Cup next round is at 10:15 tonight or something like that, depending on how the matches go. What's the crack, Morris? And Henry's in. Big up, Morris. So yeah, let's do this, folks. Let's go through this. I have a couple of slides there as well, so I'll pop those slides on as we go along. But the one thing I have to say about this, and I've done a lot of these tribute shows because, as you know, over the years since we've been doing the podcast now, a lot of wrestlers have been passing away and stuff like that. And we tend to do these tribute shows, and I always keep my notes here beside me because I like to do these tribute shows justice. And this, my friends, is the longest set of notes I've had to take down for the career of a wrestler that I've paid tribute to. So that tells you everything about Terry Funk. But we'll begin anyway. So, of course, debuted in 1965. 1965, folks, and wrestled all the way till 2017/18. Think about that. Of course, well known for his ring names, Chainsaw Charlie, of course, in WWE, and of course, renowned as Terry Funk, of course. Trained by Dory Funk, of course, his dad, Dory Funk Sr., and of course, his brother, Dory Funk Jr., who runs the factory, as we know, and stuff like that. 79 years of age, passed away. Don Morocco, I think, did a thing about dementia there not so long ago, talking about him, that he had gone into a care home, and then I think Ric Flair confirmed that he come out of the care home and he was at home and stuff like that. So, yeah, Henry, looking forward to it tomorrow night. Yeah, be good crack, pal. We'll have a great time. Daz on 2 more pay-per-views this week, and I'll Payback and all out. I know, Daz, I did a preview for Payback this morning. I'm trying to cram it in at the moment. So the Payback preview went out in the car. I haven't even had a chance to look at all out. I haven't even done the review for All In yet. So been absolutely flat out at the moment. But we'll catch up. We'll get it all sorted one way or another. Morris back in. Hi, Henry. He was in the Chainsaw Charlie days when I first started watching WWF. Loved it. Yeah, absolutely. It was mad, actually. I went into the shop today. And when I was sitting in the shop, behind me, there's a big picture of Bray Wyatt as he morphs into the Fiend. And right beside him on the rack there in the figure ones is the Chainsaw Charlie figure. So it was pretty cool to see both of them walking in today. And we hadn't intentionally done it or anything like that. It just so happened that's the way it was. And even beside the Chainsaw Charlie one, I think 2 rows up, there's a Mick Foley figure as well. So it just goes to show you, and that's the way it is, But yeah, started off in the Western States Sports. This was his dad's promotion down in Amarillo, Texas. 1965 to 1979 he worked there. Started his career in 65 working in his father's promotion in Amarillo, Texas. 1970, and some of these overlap as well because he moved around territories a lot. He worked literally everywhere. Championship Wrestling from Florida. We did a show on it a few weeks ago. I think they did when they did the Grimes on the dark side of the ring. We did a review of that, and there was a lot of Championship Wrestling from Florida in 1970 to 1982. In 1975, he defeated Jack Briscoe for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship in Miami. Dory failed to show up. His brother didn't show up for the match, and he got the shot. And that began a 14-month title reign, defending the title against Jack Briscoe, Dusty Rhodes, Carlos Rocca, Giant Baba, and the great Pat O'Connor. And he wrestled against them. And in addition to North America, he defended the belt in Australia, Japan, and Singapore. So he loved to travel. He loved his wrestling. He was very proud to be that NWA champion and all that kind of stuff, and marked out really big for it and stuff like that. The historic reign ended in Toronto when he was defeated by Handsome. I'm going to say Handsome now. You might not agree with this. This is good. Handsome Harley Race, the great late Harley Race, who had earlier beaten Dory Funk Jr. for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship before losing it to Jack Briscoe. Handsome Harley Race. What a wrestler and what a man Harley Race was. During 1981, Terry spent some time in the Continental Wrestling Association feuding with Jerry Lawler. The most memorable match in this feud happened in April 1981 at the Mid-South Coliseum, renowned for its wrestling, in Memphis, Tennessee. But the interesting thing about this match was the match took place in an empty arena with only Lance Russell, a cameraman, and a photographer present. Funk had challenged Lawler to this match at this time because he felt he was getting unfairly treated in Memphis. So there you go. That must be the earliest match, 1981, that we can remember that took place in basically an empty arena. So interesting. That's an interesting stipulation, to say the least. That's how creative these guys were. And when we think of Terry Funk, we think of the innovator. We think of all that kind of stuff, how brilliant he was, how creative he was and stuff like that. So between himself and Lawler down there, just imagine how big that is and stuff like that. 1972, the year I was born, 1972 to 1991, he worked for All Japan Pro Wrestling. Terry and Dory Jr. also made a name for themselves in Japan. Terry became a star in the eyes of Japanese fans with his over-the-top mannerisms, sometimes colourful get-ups, and his brawling ability. So there was just a huge appeal to this man, even from the Japanese fans, straight away out of the bat. In Japan, the Funks were heels until they faced the Sheik and Abdullah. And again, Abdullah the Butcher in Tokyo. And of course, we did an episode on Abdullah during the dark side of the ring and stuff like that. If you want to go check it out. The two later faced Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, and Joint Baba in memorable feuds as well. So this is the blueprint for wrestling as a career and stuff like that. Worked everywhere. World Wrestling Federation, 85 to 86, short it was. Terry Funk made his World Wrestling Federation debut June 1985 after a brief run in the AWA. In his televised debut, Championship Wrestling, he not only beat Aldo Marino, but he also beat on-ring announcer Mel Phillips. And Funk attacked Phillips after Phillips made the mistake of putting on Funk's cowboy hat. As you know, if you know your history in terms of cowboys and westerns and stuff like that, the hat is quite a very sacred thing and stuff like that, and you don't mess with that. Funk also had a gimmick of carrying a branding iron, as you can see. He had to carry the branding iron to ringside, and he used it to brand his fallen opponents. The attack on Phillips led to a feud with Junkyard Dog, JYD, another one that we did an episode on for the dark side of the ring. In the mid-80s, Funk teamed with Dory Collin himself, Hoss Funk, and Jimmy Jack Funk, a storyline brother. They were managed by Jimmy Hart, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Imagine that, the Funk brothers and Jimmy Hart managing. Good Lord. At the time, he had a heated rivalry with the Junkyard Dog, which led to a match between Terry Funk and Hoss Funk and the team of Tito Santana, Arriba, and Junkyard Dog at WrestleMania 2. So that rounds out his first stint in World Wrestling Federation. We'll flick through a few slides, take a few comments, and then we'll come back into it. Of course, this was the tribute that CM Punk did the other night, I think, at All In. Terry Funk forever, and it was nice. And he was pivotal in Punk's career as well. If you go back through your history and stuff like that, and you see some of the stuff Terry Funk did, even as kind of commissioners and overseers and outside ring kind of stuff and all that thing, he was pivotal in some ways. He was present actually for Punk's match in TNA, and Punk didn't have an awful lot of matches in TNA. He wasn't there that long, but he was present for that Punk match in TNA. We'll get into it a little bit later on. Also, of course, as we mentioned earlier, Chainsaw Charlie. How could we forget about Chainsaw Charlie? Of course, in there with Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, and stuff like that. Crazy, crazy times. Raw is war. Daz, how many matches did he have against the big stars like Hogan and Warrior? I don't think he ever worked Warrior. I don't think he did. I'm not too sure now. He may have, but I don't think he ever worked Warrior. I know he worked a series of matches with Hogan and stuff like that, often that aren't talked about, believe it or not. One thing about Terry Funk is he was never afraid to take the gloves off. No, he wasn't, Morris. Big up, Morris. One so good, Morris, you sent it twice. Hey, Daz. And Henry's in. There's been quite a few deaths in wrestling here. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a destructive sport. You know, that's you know what I mean. So it's like kind of saying there's been a few deaths in boxing. You know, it's a destructive sport. That's just the way it is, stuff like that. And these guys are, remember, if you think about boxing matches and the way boxers are and stuff like that, and they box twice, three, maybe 4 times a year max and stuff like that. These guys are performing 3, 4, 5 times a week, every week, 365, 24/7, 52 weeks a year. There is no off season in pro wrestling. No downtime, no off season. The only time you rest is if you get injured. And back then, if you got injured and you weren't wrestling, you lost your spot on the card and you didn't get paid. So you weren't being paid if you didn't wrestle. Let's get back into this. World Championship Wrestling, WCW, 1989 to 90 and also 94. Funk joined, and this is where we see some of his wrestling. If you want to go back and look at that, some of that wrestling though, some of that wrestling with Ric Flair was absolutely exceptional. And that's where we see Terry Funk, the wrestler, you know what I mean? Not necessarily this hardcore legend with the barbed wire and the blood and the explosions and Japanese deathmatch and all that. And we'll get into that as well. That's a very important part of his career. But sometimes I think that stuff, lays claim to that's how he's renowned, and that's what he's for, where he was so much more than that. Funk joined World Championship Wrestling in 1989 and became part of the JTEX Corporation. He began feuding with Ric Flair, who had defeated Ricky Steamboat at Wrestle War. Check out, if you're a wrestling fan and a wrestling purist, check out Ric Flair, those matches with Ricky Steamboat. Unbelievable. Who had defeated Ricky Steamboat at Wrestle War for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Funk, who was one of 3 judges for the main event, challenged Flair to a title match. Flair refused, saying that Funk was spending time in Hollywood instead of focusing on wrestling. Funk then attacked, pile-drived Flair on a ringside table. This put the champion Flair out of action until the Great American Bash, where he faced Funk. Flair won the match by reversing a small package into one of his own, but shortly after was attacked by Gary Hart and the Great Muta, who were part of that corporation that they ran. Gary Hart, Great Muta. Unbelievable. The two then had an I Quit match at Clash of Champions 9, which Funk lost after yelling, "Yes, I quit," after Flair put on the figure 4 leg lock. This match received a 5-star rating from Dave Meltzer at the time. And that was at a time, these 5-star ratings are thrown around an awful lot these days and stuff like that. That was at a time where if you got a 5-star rating for a match, you earned every one of those stars. So go check that one out as well if you want to look at it. Clash of Champions 9, unbelievable. In 1994, Funk reappeared in WCW and wrestled Tully Blanchard to a double disqualification at Slamboree 1994. And later that night, he became a member of Colonel Robert Parker's stud stable, along with Bunkhouse Buck, Arn Anderson, and me. The stable will focus their energies on Dusty Rhodes, as well as the Nasty Boys, culminating in a War Games match of Fall Brawl, which was absolutely exceptional as well. So let's take another few slides and a few comments. This is the cover that you'll find for the legendary Japanese tournament, those death matches and all. No ropes, barbed wire, C4 in the corner, every single kind of hardcore weapon, all sorts of stuff. It was absolutely crazy. Morris back in. Boxers have gloves though. Morris, you're obsessed with gloves tonight. According to Meltzer, Kurt Angle never had a 5-star match. Says enough for me. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you look, if the match the match with Lesnar at 19 is a 5-star match, regardless of the mess up on the shooting star press. That was an unbelievable match that those two boys pulled off. So yeah, absolutely. But if you want to check out these, and again, I would say if you've been following the podcast and you know me as a pro wrestling fan, I'm not mad into the hardcore stuff. I'm not mad into the blood and guts and all that kind of stuff. I like proper straight up purist type of wrestling stuff like that. So those death matches and all don't really appeal to me. I've said it before, even in AEW when Jericho started doing them and your man Gage and that game changer wrestling was back on the scene, stuff like that. That really turns me off. I don't really like that style of wrestling, but it's there for whoever wants it. The International Wrestling Association Japan, we're getting into it now. In 1994 to 95, Funk would go on to participate in the IWA's most famous event, the King of the Deathmatch tournament, which you see there in front of you, as part of it. Held on August the 20th, 1995 in Kawasaki. Funk was defeated by protege Cactus Jack, later known by US audiences, of course, as Mick Foley, in a no ropes, barbed wire, exploding barbed wire, boards, and exploding ring time bomb death match. Terry would also participate in several other death matches throughout 1995, but those were the kind of big ones. And if you go and look at those matches they're quite tough to watch. It's quite tough when you're even whipping someone into the ropes. If you're whipping someone into barbed wire ropes, just think of the effect that has on. And he's had a couple of real tough matches. The match that he had with Sabu and stuff like that with the barbed wire ropes and all that just tore the two of them up, ate them up like butchers. Basically, it was crazy. We move on then to ECW, and of course, this is the match. This was the WrestleFest one. This was the retirement match that he had with Bret Hart. It wasn't sanctioned because there was Bret was WWF champion at the time or something. But what a match they had! And Dennis, is it Dennis Stamp? I think it is Dennis Stamp or something like that is the referee, and it's highlighted in one of the documentaries how much he wanted to referee this match, and it didn't look like he was going to referee it. Terry Funk being the guy that is, he turned around and says, "You are absolutely refereeing this match," and he made sure that Dennis got to wrestle it. And it was a poignant moment as well, because Dennis was also kind of a performer as well, but he really so much wanted to wrestle this match, and it was a great match between himself and Bret Hart. He held his own, and look, if you can hold your own with Bret Hart, that tells everything about how good you are, doesn't it? ECW 1993 to 97, Eastern Championship Wrestling in ECW. Terry and Dory Funk lost a barbed wire match against Public Enemy. Feuds and wrestle programs with wrestlers such as Cactus Jack, of course, the franchise Shane Douglas, Sandman, Sabu, and Terry's own protege, Tommy Dreamer. So these are the guys. Terry was the guy who embedded that kind of hardcore in there, and all those guys looked to him. He was the guy and stuff like that. And so many of those guys went on to have great careers in ECW, hardcore stuff, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of that, the groundwork for that kind of stuff was Terry Funk and these guys. They were the guys that laid the groundwork for what these guys kind of went on and did. He further elevated ECW by headlining their first pay-per-view, Barely Legal, on April 13, 1997, winning the ECW World Heavyweight Championship from Raven. Again, what another mind for the business. When you think about these minds that have been in the business, Raven, Terry Funk, unbelievable from a creative point of view, and even just the so basic simple things and the way they did it in such a way and stuff like that to develop it. Earlier in the night, he defeated Sandman and Stevie Richards in a triple threat match, thus earning the match with Raven and stuff like that. So it went through Sandman, Stevie Richards to get to Raven. This is Terry Funk, unbelievable. He further elevated ECW by headline. That's the one I went through already. Sorry about that. Funk went on to successfully defend the title in bouts at Chapter 2, the Buffalo Invasion, WrestlePalooza, and Heatwave. He was ultimately defeated for the title by Sabu in a barbed wire match at Born to be Wired in August 1997, in which the ropes of the ring were taken down and replaced with barbed wire. If you go and you look at that title match was unbelievable. Both those guys' bodies were chewed up like they'd been through a butcher's mincer. Unbelievable. In September 1997, a show was held in Funk's hometown of Amarillo. It was called Terry Funk's WrestleFest. That's what you're looking at there, where he wrestled Brett, and was both his own show and a celebration of the careers of Terry, his father, and his brother. Terry lost to then WWF champion Bret Hart in the main event, a non-title match. Beforehand, ECW owner Paul Heyman presented Terry with a belt, paid for through a collection taken up by the wrestlers on the ECW roster, that declared him the lifetime ECW World Heavyweight Champion. No bigger accolade, really, when you think about it in terms of ECW and hardcore wrestling, stuff like that. The lifetime ECW hardcore champion. Comments. Morris, Taker versus Angle, no way out was even better. Yeah, absolutely. I gotta go, Niall, mate. I have a live at 9. See you tomorrow today. Yeah, absolutely. I'll send you on that link tomorrow, Henry, as well. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Return to World Wrestling Federation, 1997 to 1998. Of course, we have to bring up this man then, if that's what we're talking about. He appeared in the Royal Rumble match, appearing at number 24 and lasting 15 minutes and 18 seconds before being eliminated by Mankind. He just can't get away from this Mick Foley guy when you think about it. They're basically like a married couple. Literally everywhere he went, this is the guy he was working or this is the guy he got involved in. Crazy. Funk debuted in the WWF on December the 29th, 1997 episode of Raw as the Masked Chainsaw Charlie. There you go. Although his true identity was soon acknowledged by the announcers, I think it was fairly obvious if you didn't know who he was. By the announcers, teaming with Mick Foley, who was wrestling under his Cactus Jack persona, Charlie and Jack began feuding with the New Age Outlaws. Absolutely unbelievable stuff. Who defeated them by disqualification on January the 26th, 1998 episode of Raw. Unreal. Dusty sucks eggs. There you go, Sean. Unbelievable. Yeah, Dusty sucks eggs. Awesome. Back into ECW 98 to 99. He just seemed to rebound around and move wherever the kind of road took him, really, didn't it? At ECW November to Remember, Funk was believed to have been Tommy Dreamer's mystery partner against Just Incredible and Jack Victory. However, it turned out to be Jake Roberts, and enraged Funk attacked Dreamer at every opportunity in late 98 and early 99. Then a return to World Championship Wrestling 2000-2001. Funk wrestled for WCW, winning the WCW Hardcore Championship 3 times. He was also the WCW Commissioner, introduced on January the 3rd, 2000 episode of Monday Nitro, and one time, and the leader of the short-lived Old Age Outlaws, Funk, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff, that feuded with the NWL. Only a collection of Funk, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff could feud with the NWO when you think about it. Sean's in. Still remember JR's call when the Outlaws pushed Cactus and Charlie off the ramp on the bin. Don't you dare do that. Good God, there's people in there. Yeah, it was unbelievable, wasn't it? Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. But they just loved it and embraced it, didn't they, really, when you think about it? Went out then on the independent circuit 2000 to 2006. You know, he was a regular top star for Ring of Honor Wrestling and Major League Wrestling as well. Funk had several battles with the likes of CM Punk, the Extreme Horsemen, Steve Corino, C.W. Anderson, Just Incredible, and Simon Diamond as well, yeah. Did a bit of stuff with TNA, NWA TNA 2004, February 2004. NWA, Funk and the Sandman lost to the Gathering, CM Punk and Julio De Niro. On February the 18th, 2004, NWA TNA, Funk and Raven defeated the Gathering. And on May the 23rd, 2009, Funk made an unannounced appearance at a house show for Total Nonstop Action. At the show, Terry joined longtime friend Mick Foley as a special guest enforcer for a match between Scott Steiner and Samoa Joe. This man got around, didn't he? He certainly got around. That's in. Did he ever go against Goldberg? Also, is he in the Hall of Fame? He is. He's in multiple Hall of Fames, Daz. Any Hall of Fame related to wrestling, Terry Funk is in And Mick Foley, I think, inducted him into the WWE one, and he inducted Mick Foley into the WWE one as well, as far as I know. Yeah, absolutely. Not sure if he crossed paths with Goldberg. I'm not too sure. He probably did. I'm not too sure, but nothing came to mind when I was thinking about it today. Funk was great in Paradise Alley and Roadhouse and Over the Top films. Yeah, absolutely. He was really good buddies with Sylvester Stallone and everything and all. So yeah, absolutely. Remember Over the Top? Crazy movies, weren't they? Paradise Alley, Roadhouse and all, yeah. Crazy, crazy. So big up Pacers. Late returns to WWE 2006, 2009, 2013, 2016. ECW One Night Stand, of course, the one Sean was talking about earlier. Funk would team with Dreamer and Beulah McGillicuddy in a losing effort against Foley, Edge, and Lita. Midway through the match, Foley injured Funk's eye, his left eye with barbed wire, and Funk was taken backstage. He later returned to the match with a bloody cloth tied over his eye to hit Foley with a flaming 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. These boys don't mess about, do they? Funk, along with his brother Dory, was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. There you go, 2009, by his longtime friend Dusty Rhodes. In 2013, Funk inducted Mick Foley into the Hall of Fame. And then it was a return to the independent circuit from 2006 to 2017. Sean's in, yeah. My eye was such a good call. Loved it against Lawler, but a one night stand was amazing. Then he came back out with his head wrapped like a mummy and killed Cactus Jack. Yeah, absolutely. How could we forget it? Acers love Funk rivalry matches with Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair. Greatest wrestling never seen. Yeah, absolutely. That's what we were saying earlier, Acers. We were saying that, he's so renowned for the hardcore stuff that people forget about all that other good wrestling stuff that he did. It's a shame, really, He worked basically every promotion you can mention against everyone not contracted to WWE. He worked Piper, anyone who was out on the independent circuit, he crossed paths with them. In June 2021, fellow wrestling legend Don Morocco reported Funk was diagnosed as living with dementia and was living in an assisted living facility. On December the 29th, 2021, Ric Flair announced on his podcast with Mark Madden that Funk had returned home and was doing well, which was great to hear. Sadly, he passed away last week, August the 23rd, at the age of 79 at a Phoenix area hospital. August 25th, 2023, episode of SmackDown honoured him and, of course, the late Bray Wyatt. And it was a great tribute at WWE. The one thing WWE really do well and really get you in the fields is those video packages, those vignettes, and the way they put them together. They're top game when it comes to that. The tributes footage, of course. The episode also held a namesake hardcore tag team match between the Brawling Brutes and the Street Profits, just to honour Terry Funk and stuff like that. So it was a nice way to go. So yeah, another one gone, another legend gone. Like I said, kind of a different dynamic to Bray Wyatt. Kind of upsetting in a different way and stuff like that. This guy had a heck of a career. Anyone you can think of, he worked every style. He worked nearly every storyline, anything he could. Sean is in. Love how Funk wasn't just restricted to the hardcore style. He was a phenomenal wrestler. If you took a couple of the fellas in ECW and put them in a normal match, they would struggle, but not Funk Master. Yeah, absolutely. That's the real purpose of this show and the chronological history of what he did and stuff like that. He was so much more than a hardcore wrestler. He was such an innovator, even within the hardcore realm, but even outside of that, he was such an innovator. The stuff of Ric Flair is exceptional. Dusty Rhodes, Florida Championship Wrestling. We've covered so many of these territories on the dark side of the ring. Maybe it's time someone did a good side of the ring or something like that, who knows. Acers, it's insane that Funk and Foley didn't die in that match in Japan. Yeah, and we were saying that earlier, Acers, as well. Like, we talked about Bray Wyatt and how he passed away at 36, so young, leaving the kids and JoJo and all behind stuff that. But then you look at Terry Funk and you think 79, generally still a young age, but really not a young age when you think about what Terry Funk put his body through. 79 is a great age. Morris, Cucurella wears gloves. Can't wait to see him in red. Good Lord. Can you imagine? Losing Terry and Bray was horrendous, but now when I hear their names, I don't feel sad. I become happy and nostalgic for the memories they've left behind. Yeah, I was saying earlier, Sean, it hit me bad yesterday because I was just thinking about, when you're a father and you have kids and you have a wife and stuff like that, and that kind of really hit me more than the actual wrestling. And then listening to the wrestlers talking about Bray Wyatt and stuff like that, and how he loved the business so much and he was so creative and he was so helpful to everyone. And Becky talking about, how he helped her with table matches and what he meant to people there and stuff like that. And it's a massive void that's left now. Whereas with Terry, although he's gone, he hasn't left a void. He gave us everything he could, but he also brought everyone else along with him and stuff like that. As you said earlier, Sean, there's so many wrestlers out there at the moment. Oh, such a debt of gratitude to Terry Funk. Um, they did something for Brian All In. Yeah, I seen that, yeah, and I know Jericho as well mentioned. I think Jericho the night before did a concert as well, and he put it out there as well. There was a tribute as well. So yeah, I think the one thing that happens when wrestlers do pass away, promotions forget about themselves and they come together to honor these guys in the right way. John, I have nice images of Funk with a 2x4 wrapped in wire on fire, rocking up to the gates of heaven. Yeah, just imagine. Just imagine. Imagine what's going on up there. He's going up there now to create absolute mayhem, I'd say. Absolute mayhem. Acers, Tommy Dreamer must be destroyed by this news. Yeah, I'd say Tommy was hit bad by it, yeah. But I'd say everyone was hit bad by it. I mean, you think about the Dudleys, the whole lot of them, Raven, all of them must have really felt the passing. Similar to the WWE guys with Bray Wyatt passing and stuff like that. It's always a tough one when you're working close to people that you lose. It's really, really tough. I mean, we're on the outside and we get it as fans, but can you imagine if he's your friend in the locker room, your go-to guy? Imagine how Foley felt when he got the news that Terry Funk had passed away. Tough one. Yeah, so that's really it, folks. We've gone 40 minutes nearly. Um, like I said, a lot of slides. I did want to before we finish up. Actually, I did want to go down through his championships and accomplishments, and I think this is really, really important to do as well because it's quite the list, and it might take a little bit of time. Um, Sean, yeah, I was at All In on the way into the doors. They were playing Bray's team, and we all started cheering. And a lad dressed as the Fiend, he conducted the crowd when he got the whole world in his hands. Yeah, absolutely. They were also playing his music, Sean. I think Arsenal played it at half time in their game. They play a lot of wrestling songs, but they honoured him, and also they honoured him at a Coventry game as well, where they played his music at half time as well. So yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. They're coming back next year, All In August 25th. Yeah, I'm not surprised. The one thing I would say about it, and I'll probably cover it in the review as well, I think what they need to do is for a show of that magnitude, because looking at it on the TV, I couldn't get over to it, but looking at it on the TV, I had real WrestleMania feels about it. It was a big, big event, really well laid out. Great crowd. That UK crowd are fantastic when you go to a wrestling event. But what I think they really need to do is they really need to put together proper storylines in it. For an event of that magnitude, you shouldn't be still booking it the week that you're in it. I think it deserves better than that. And that's the only criticism I have. I know Punk and Jungle Boy got into it and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that later in the week and stuff like that. But I think for a show of that magnitude, 80 odd thousand fans, 90 odd thousand people in the building and stuff like that, you don't book matches 3 days before that. You should be going in with proper storylines, get you emotionally involved, build up into it fully for all those matches. Um, Sean, same way I felt when New Jack died. Imagine the gunshots from Natural Born Killers playing as he ran in with the shopping cart and started smashing lads up. Yeah, just imagine. Let's get into his championships and accomplishments. It's a they booked it, yeah, Morris. They booked it as a house show, yeah, sure. If you remember, if you go back a month ago, Bully Ray was talking, I think, on the Busted Open podcast. He was talking about why don't they just not announce any matches? And I was thinking that sounds kind of it's kind of fresh and it's new and stuff like that. But 80,000 people, it's a bit of a push and stuff like that. So I'm not too sure. Yeah, Dave Morris, cool. Yeah, but I think a show of that magnitude, I think it deserves proper storyline, proper book, and all that stuff. Not stuff on the fly and stuff like that. Del boys in, what's a crack, my man? How are you? Good to see you, pal. Only back from my holidays this week, flat out with podcasts, and hope you're doing well. Hope the channel's doing well. Check out Del's channel, especially if you're a Gooner, if you're an Arsenal fan, or if you're just a crazy football fan in general. You will enjoy Del's channel and stuff like that. I'm sure, Del, you have a couple of big shows coming up in relation to the United game this week. So if you have any links around and you have there, whack them into the chat if you want, or send them on to me, pal, and I'll share them. Ace says Tony Khan is too busy sorting cocaine backstage while booking pay-per-views. Oh, good Lord. Ace says you always rock up with one, don't you? Let's get into this championship and accomplishments, because it could take a while. And All Japan Pro Wrestling received something like 10 different awards, all kind of technical awards, distinguished awards, technique awards, excellent team awards, all really with the brother Dory Funk and stuff like that. So pretty cool. Cauliflower Alley Club Iron Mike Mazurka Award in 2005. Florida Championship Wrestling, NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship 1 time. Tag Team Champion 2 times with the brother Dory Funk Jr. Florida Television Champion 1 time. North American Tag Team Champion 1 time with the brother. South NWA Southern Heavyweight Championship 2 times. NWA Florida TV Television Championship Tournament 1971, the year before I was born. And NWA Florida Heavyweight Championship Tournament in 1979. ECW World Heavyweight Championship 2 times. ECW Television Champion 1 time. George Tragos, Lou Tez, Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame. This is for you, Daz. Class of 2010. Georgia Championship Wrestling. Georgia Tag Team Championship 1 time with Dory. Georgia Television Champion 1 time. And Georgia Tag Team Championship Tournament 1978 as well. Into the Hardcore Hall of Fame 2005. Of course, the man sits on the throne and that kind of thing. International Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2021. Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW. WCW United States Heavyweight Championship 2 times. Hardcore Championship 3 times. WCW Hall of Fame, class of 1995. And NWA United States Championship Tournament 1975. Juggalo Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion 1 time. NWA Hall of Fame 2009. NWA World Heavyweight Champion 1 time. NWA Big Time Wrestling. NWA Brass Knuckles Championship Texas version 1 time. NWA Hollywood Wrestling America's Heavyweight Champion 1 time. International Tag Team Champion 3 times. World Tag Team Champions Los Angeles version 1 time. Propane Wrestling, as in propane, not the gas. 3PW World Heavyweight Champion 1 time. Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Feud of the Year 89 with Ric Flair. Folks, go and look at 89, that feud with Ric Flair. Unbelievable. Most Inspirational Wrestler of the Year 1997. Stanley Weston Award 2021. PWI Wrestler of the Year 1976. Ranked number 22 in the top 500 single wrestlers to 1991. Ranked 9 in the top 100 tag teams PWI years with Dory Funk in 2003. Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum, class of 2004. Southwest Championship Wrestling, Heavyweight Champion 1 time, Tag Team Champion 1 time. Squared Circle Wrestling, Heavyweight Champion 1 time. St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 2010. St. Louis Wrestling Club, NWA Missouri Heavyweight Champion 1 time. Stampede Wrestling Hall of Fame, class of 1995. Tokyo Sports Lifetime Achievement Award 1983. Match of the Year Award 1990 with Dory Funk Jr. versus Joint Baba and Jumbo Tsuruta on December the 11th. Popularity Award 1979. United States Wrestling Association, USWA. Unified World Heavyweight Champion 1 time. Western State Sports, NWA Brass Knuckles Champion 2 times. International Tag Championship twice. Western States Heavyweight Championship 12 times. Western States Tag Team Champion 3 times with Ricky Romero and the Lawman. NWA World Tag Team Championship Amarillo version 3 times with Dory Funk Jr. NWA World Tag Team Champion Texas version 2 times with Dory Funk Jr. World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions 1 time with Cactus Jack. WWE Hall of Fame class of 2009. Wrestling Observer Newsletter, Best Brawler 1989, Best Heel 1989, Best on Interviews 1989, Hardest Worker 1989, Feud of the Year with Ric Flair 1989, and Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame Class of 1996. Filmography, as Ace mentioned earlier: Paradise Alley, Over the Top, Time Stalkers, Roadhouse, Beyond the Madacor's documentary, if you want to take a look at that, really good. I'm sure most of you have watched it already. Friday Night Lights, and The Ringer. On television, he appeared in Wildside, Swamp Thing, Quantum Leap, Tequila and Bonetti, The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr., Thunder in Paradise, Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, and Dark Side of the Ring, of course, he did as well. He also released a couple of songs as well on the way: Texas Bronco, Great Texan, and Tougher Than Shoe Leather. Tougher Than Shoe Leather, talking about describing the man. Also a couple of books out there: More Than Just Hardcore 2013 and Terry Funk 2022. That is quite the list, folks, and we have done some serious shows on here for wrestlers at times. That is that man's achievements. He has wore gold every single place he went, and he went to nearly every single place. Morrison, Dale got Havers on his jersey. Nah, stop. What's crack, Dale? And Aces is in. Dusty Rhodes' speech for the Hall of Fame was absolutely amazing. Yeah, absolutely. And see, look, we would expect nothing less from the Dream, Dusty Rhodes. All that's left me to say, folks, is thanks for tuning in. Great tribute to the great late Terry Funk, hardcore legend, fantastic wrestler, unbelievable human being. Rest in peace. Until next time, folks, subscribe to the channel. Hit up all the channels in the chat as well. Show your support for all of them. Hit a like on the video, share, subscribe, bell notification, give it the whole works. Audio versions, of course, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music. And we'll be back with you again real soon. Rest in peace, Terry Funk.